Hey, listeners. This is Brett Hespell of the Porter Pridecast. Just wanted to thank you for joining the show, but we also want to make sure you follow along. So here's our other host, Adam Decaire. We'll talk about where you can follow us.
Yeah, again, thanks for logging in, giving us a listen. Make sure to follow us on all your social media needs on Twitter and Instagram. You can find us at Porter Pridecast for both. So give us a like, give us a retweet, spread the word, tell all your friends, tell all your followers, like both those accounts, and keep on coming back.
And you can get the show, you can get our podcast wherever you find your podcasts. And you could also check out Porter Pridecast TV on YouTube. Just search Porter Pridecast on both, and you'll be able to come up with them. So make sure you subscribe to both of those channels so you can get all the episodes when they come out.
Don't forget to leave us those reviews, preferably 5 stars, and keep spreading the word. Go Porters.
Go Porters. Welcome to the Porter Pridecast. We're back, episode 13. A little bit of a delay here, but we had parent-teacher conferences last week, so it was a little bit different week at Lockport High School. But we are back with episode 13 on the top-rated, most listened to podcast in the Lockport Township High School 205 listening area. You're in the right place. I'm Brett Hespell, Lockport High School, joined with my other co-host, Adam Decaire. What's going on, Coach Decaire? How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to be back to normal here, getting back on track with our recording. You know, I had to take care of some school business, like you said, but back where we belong here with lucky number 13. Good episode coming up.
Yeah, so episode 13. The first 12 have been our listeners on Apple Podcasts and Spotify have been growing like crazy. So if you're not listening to us yet on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, go check it out. That audience is just blowing up. And we still have Porter Pridecast TV on YouTube where you can see our beautiful faces while listening to us.
I think that's why the podcast numbers are going up. Now people don't have to watch us anymore.
That's a good point. Lots of great stuff going on around Lockport. We just mentioned we just had successful parent-teacher conferences, even though they were virtual. We had our golf team has been doing great. They just had their sectional performances and regionals. Our fall seasons are winding down for boys and girls cross country, girls swimming, and girls tennis. And hopefully we get some winter sports starting up here in November. We're recording this in the middle of October, so hopefully the winter sports start up. I know I personally hope winter sports start up. So lots of good stuff going on. Lots of great things happening in Lockport. Students are coming back hybrid, full hybrid here for the time being, coming up here in a few days. So lots of great stuff going on. But before we get into any of that, we're going to take a break from our usual routine because we did have some sad news recently from our Lockport High School family. We lost a friend, a fellow staff member, Mr. Joseph Lewandowski, who taught PE at Central Campus and was the boys' water polo coach, head coach. He passed away a couple weeks ago, so it's been a little bit of a sad time around here, and we wanted to take episode 13 to dedicate in memory to Joe Lewandowski. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to talk about him. We're going to bring on some people that have been close to him and were impacted by him and know him well, just to share some of the great thoughts and memories that have been coming up in response to his loss. So, Coach Decaire, I'll let you get started. Share any thoughts you have about Coach Lewandowski.
Yeah, I mean, you know, obviously a huge loss to the Lockport family. It's never easy, you know, losing someone, especially somebody like Coach Lou. I mean, his personality. I don't think there's a person that you could ask about Coach that wouldn't start with a smile or just laugh, you know, because that's exactly what you would do anytime you talk to him or spend any time with him. I mean, I had cafeteria supervision with him last year, and the amount of laughs that we had, and just great stories, is some great memories. And I think, I'm really excited to hear from some of our guests just as examples of how impactful he was, with his players, with his students, with his friends, his family, and his staff members here at Lockport, like you mentioned, a huge family. So I'm really looking forward to, tributing, Coach Lou, because I know that's what he would want us to remember, all the great things and all the smiles and laughs that are associated with Lou.
Yeah, there's been a lot, and it's been fun to hear some of the stories. But I'll share one. Being the head boys basketball coach, Lou and I got to know each other really well when I was early in my career. This was around 2013 or so. The boys water polo team had just finished in the Final Four of state for boys water polo. And I'm coaching. I'm the freshman boys basketball coach at the time, and in walks Lou after one of my classes, just all fired up. He's like, "I got questions for you." I'm like, "Okay," and he's like, starts asking me about offense on the basketball court and some ideas of what we've been doing with our freshmen that he could maybe use with his team. And I'm like, dude, you just finished 4th place in the state of Illinois. I'm the freshman boys basketball coach who's been teaching for like 4 years at the time. Why are you asking me? And so we sat for 3 straight days. He came in during my off period, and we sat in my classroom and drew on the whiteboard the ideas that I had in my head for how I was trying to get things. So like philosophy, concepts, and drills. And he was just like cataloging all this stuff of what he could take back to the pool for his water polo team. And I was just floored by his passion for the sport, his passion for trying to learn and better himself, but also his humility to be able to come and ask a nobody like me for my thoughts. And, so we had that bond, and we continued to share new ideas over the years. And then as I became the head coach, it was interesting. I'd be sitting at my desk, and Lou would walk by during a passing period or something, or in the morning maybe when no one else was around, and he'd poke his head in and he'd say, "Hey, how'd the game go the other night against, Bolingbrook or Homewood Flossmoor, or maybe it was Sandburg or whoever. How'd the game go?" He knew who we'd played, and I'd be like, "Oh, man, we had a tough loss, man. We were right there. We just couldn't get over the hump." Or I'd be ecstatic because it was a huge win. And it dawned on me after a while that Lou didn't want to know about the game. He already knew about it. But he was taking just a moment to pop in to support me if we had a tough loss, or to celebrate with me if we had a big win. And he just wanted to support his friend. And that to me is my favorite memory of Lou, because he didn't never have to do that. He never have to walk by. There was no reason for him to walk by my room. He just came by. He wouldn't tell me that, but I figured that out after a while. So definitely going to miss him, and glad we're going to get a chance, like you said, to just hear a little bit about his impact.
Absolutely.
So without any further ado, let's bring in our first guest, a guy who's coached with Lou side by side for a while. We'll be right back with our first guest to talk more about Coach Lewandowski. So we are joined here this time with our first guest today. We got a couple on today to continue to memorialize Coach Lou. And this is Derek Sanderson. Coach Sanderson is an English teacher at Lockport, and he is now the head girls water polo coach. He's coached swimming and some water polo alongside Coach Lou for a number of years, so we thought he'd be a great guest to come on and just give us his thoughts and share some of the positive memories that he has of Lou, since he worked with him on an almost daily basis. So welcome, Coach Sanderson. How you doing?
Doing all right. How about you guys?
Oh, not too bad.
You forgot 2 of the most important pieces introducing Mr. Sanderson here. Number 1, he's a return guest on the Porter Pridecast.
That's a good point.
And probably the most important is a fellow Manhattanite. So we dear to my heart in the 60442.
I don't know if that makes the most important thing, but he is a return guest. He was on episode 6, right?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, we got episode 6 on the spring sports where he talked about girls water polo. So it is this our first return guest, Decaire?
This is our first return guest. I think that gets a T-shirt. I don't know when it'll be made, but
Sometime.
we'll let you know.
Sometime.
I like it.
But yeah, Coach, thanks for coming on and joining us. Why don't you just start off, talk to us a little bit about Coach Lou's bio, talk about the water polo program that he started. So kind of just give us a little insight there.
So Coach Lou actually and his dad started the boys and girls water polo team here about 20 years ago. They started it. He started the boys and his dad started the girls. It started as a club team, and they actually didn't get paid for the first 3 or so years at all. They just did it as volunteer just to get the program started. And then they both officiated for girls and boys swimming and for water polo, so they knew the game a lot, and a lot of people from that. And then, as they were able to finally get it to be a team sport, then they picked up the coaching jobs there. And they also Coach Lou coached the boys swimming for a number of years as well. So he, did a lot of recruiting from there. And so he had been with Lockport for close to 20 years. And every year that he'd been here, he'd been coaching the water polo team, either club or as a varsity sport. Some of the big accomplishments would be in 2012 when they won sectionals and they got 4th place in state. And some teams think we win sectionals all the time, but it depends on where you're at. We're in a very difficult sectional, and also to think that he started the program from nothing and within 12 years was the 4th in state. I mean, it's not just the coaches. As you guys know, being coaches, it's your team, but it's still, to see someone do that with the program, it says a lot. And part of that was, it was called fall ball. So that was a club team that he ran, again, for even up until this year, he was doing it, and he never made any money off of that. And that was something that happened through the fall that he would do in the mornings and on the weekends with the players. And then, he'd coach swimming in the winter season, and then in the spring do water polo. And then that would, kind of carry over. And summer was where fall ball and the end of the season kind of mixed. And then he would also coach ran a country club. And they had a team, and he would help get the guys jobs coaching there. And also when they would coach there and work there for him, they would be able to get the country club scholarships. So there's some athletes who actually he had here, he got them jobs, he helped them get into college. He was someone that helped you not just during your season, he helped you your whole life. Not to jump around too much, but I've shared with you guys how I first met Lou was before I even started working here, and it was before I even started playing water polo. Something that I'm not proud to admit as our varsity coach is that I didn't make the team my freshman year at Lincoln Way East for water polo. And my dad worked here with Lou at the time, and he told him, and I was devastated that I didn't make the team. And so the following year, Lou had me come here to the Central Dungeon pool, even though I didn't go here. And my dad would come, and he worked with me a couple nights to help me just to be better so that I made the team when tryouts came around, and I did. And because of that, I went on this path of, coaching a club team to coaching it in high school and then coaching with him. And so, I played in a club team that's going to be a varsity team in college. And I owe so much of that back to finally making the team. And that was all because of Lou. And that was just the effect that he had on so many of people and so many of his athletes that, again, it wasn't just those 3 months that you were in the season that he helped you. He helped you from the moment he met you until the end. That was just how he was. And then I coached with him on the boys swim team for 4 seasons, and then I coached with him for water polo for 5. And then when I started heading the girls team, he just helped me every step of the way. As far as going from that assistant to the head coaching position. He was definitely someone who always wanted to have fun at practice and in games and knew that was going to help. He was just a sponge to the game and a constant student of the game. He'd watch film. He'd wake up at 3 a.m. and watch the Hungary versus Serbia national games on ESPN 8. And he was constantly just wanting to talk. And I know Coach Hespell talked to you before about, comparing basketball offenses. He would do that with soccer and hockey coaches and, anyone that he could talk to just to get a different idea. And he would go to camps that weren't coach camps, they were kid camps. And he would go and he'd watch the way that the coaches that were there doing the camps would run things, and he would talk to them about ideas. And, he never stopped trying to better himself, better the program, better his athletes. And there was nothing that he didn't do to help his kids in the program.
Yeah, those are some great stories there, and that totally paints the picture of the Lou I knew. Completely committed, like you said. I mean, first couple of years, didn't even get paid to start the club team at the school. It just doesn't surprise me one bit. And you're right, he did. He did have some conversations with me. I mentioned that to Decaire a little bit earlier on the show, but he did. We sat in my room and we talked about how basketball would fit water polo, and those are some fun memories. Can you share for us just a little bit about Lou? His personality he was such a strong personality. How did that show itself as a coach for the high school kids? Well, do you have any tidbits or stories you can share about his personality?
It's talking with everyone. We've all been reminiscing lately, and one thing that I've said is that he loved to win. He had this desire to win. But he was also the best person to win with, like to celebrate with a win with him, whether it was winning like a goofy class competition or you made a quick bet at what time a meeting was going to start, or all the way to like winning a big game. Like when he won and you won, he would come up and give you that bear hug and that full body shake, and just like it was nothing like it. And even if he just found out that you had won like an award, like he had that mentality of that like celebration, even if it had nothing to do with sports. But on the pool deck, it was definitely like that. And it was whatever the celebration was, whether it was winning, whether it was just someone doing better for themselves. He loved to see the underdog win. We had a year where there was a senior who hadn't really played too much, and he wasn't necessarily a starter, but it was senior night, and Lou was like, I'm putting him in. He's earned his spot. He gets to go in. And craziest backhand from midcourt, like he ends up breaking the tie to win the game. This senior who a lot of people kind of were like shouldn't even be in, he ends up winning the game for us. And that to Lou, he didn't care about the win. It was that kid got to have that senior night memory. Like that was the win to him. I've talked a lot about looking through a lot of the stuff, when we win big games, we'd sign balls. I'm sure other sports do the same thing. And, and all those give big balls and banners, and even the ones in the display case with that fourth place in state, all of that. Lou never signed anything. He wanted the win more than anyone, but he didn't want the glory and the fame. He wanted to let everyone else get to have that and to share that with you, but he didn't want to be, remembered and have all that stuff. He just wanted to help everybody else. And I think the fact that you don't see his name on things like speaks volumes, and just like, who he was.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so you talked about – what's that?
I just that with players, when they were a minute late, he would tell them, go home. You didn't want it bad enough. Try again tomorrow. And he wouldn't yell and scream. He wouldn't make you do push-ups. He would just say those simple words, and everyone knew, like, there was no arguing with it. And I remember when I first started coaching with him, I was running late the one morning, and I got there, and a bunch of players said, "You didn't want it bad enough, coach." And he kind of just looked at me and shrugged, like, so I went home. I didn't know what else to do, and I wasn't late again. And it's like funny seeing like a lot of the players and stuff, and hearing that like even years later, like that was something that always stuck with them. Like if you want it bad enough, you will be there. You will find a way to get there on time. And that's just a life skill. And that was something he didn't just want to make people better players. He wanted to make them better athletes. But better like men, better people, better humans. That was like a big focus that he had.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of just shared, but, coaching is all about teaching lessons, whether it's to your players, your assistants. I know you kind of mentioned Lou and you had a very dynamic relationship, starting off, helping you out in high school, becoming colleagues when you got a job here, coaching with each other, obviously a mentor figure, a personal friend. So what would you say, is the best lesson Lou taught you in any of those capacities?
I think his mantras, his little sayings are just like, there's always lessons attached that always stick with me. something that any coach has seen at the beginning or end of a practice or a game is everyone kind of sits around. There's stuff that's got to get done. No one doesn't. And he'd always just say, many hands make light work. And, we all knew, like, everyone's got to chip in, or just as simple as, like, that's what we do. That's just what he would say whenever it was like, oh, thanks for helping me with that. It wasn't like, oh, you owe me, or, oh, it was just, that's what we do. And it was just setting that standard of, like, that's just how we're going to treat each other. Like, you don't owe me or I owe you. We're a family. He really made the team a family. He made, our maroon and white games are now like an all-day event where the families come and it's like a big breakfast potluck for the boys and the girl teams. He really wanted to make that connection between, the both, that it was still water polo, it was still Lockport. He loved having the alumni come in for that. The alumni come in and coach that, actually. And, like, that's always a big event where there will be, like, 20 alumni there. And speaking of that, I think it speaks volumes that there was so many people at Lou's memorial service, but at his actual funeral service, there was 60 water polo alumni in attendance, current and past players. And that was only because that was all that was allowed. But, yeah, we had 60 people who were there, aside from family and stuff, that were just water polo.
Well, Coach Sanderson, I know you got to get over to practice, so we don't want to keep it too long. But thank you for taking a few minutes to share some of your insight about really your friend. And we all miss him because we all knew him. Decaire and I both, we teach over here at Central, so we knew Lou pretty well as well. And it's not easy. So our condolences to you, of course, and to everybody who's, a part of the water polo family at Lockport. And I know that, like we just mentioned, that family wouldn't even exist if it wasn't for Joe Lewandowski. So, we're thinking of you guys, and we're just glad that you could take a couple minutes to help us share a few thoughts about him.
Yeah, it was really a loss, I think, to everyone, and I appreciate getting to come on and be a two-time guest. And thank you guys so much.
Yeah, and don't worry, we'll edit out that part you talked about getting cut. You heard it here first. Derek Sanderson, first freshman All-State water polo, Lincoln East.
There we go. Boom.
All right, thank you, Coach Sanderson.
Thanks, Coach.
Appreciate it. All right, so we are back, and we are joined with another special Lockport alum. Decaire, we've had some Lockport legends on. I think this one counts too. I don't know how long you have to be gone from Lockport to be considered legendary. Jake hasn't been gone that long in the grand scheme of things, but we're going to consider him a Lockport legend. So we got another one here. Jake Sweis is with us. Jake is a relatively recent graduate of Lockport. And he can tell us just to introduce himself just a moment here. And then we're going to talk to him about Coach Lou a little bit, because Jake was able to play for Lou for several years, playing water polo. And so you got to know him well. So it'll be good to talk to Jake. So Jake, welcome. How you doing?
I'm good, Coach Hespell. How are you doing?
Not too bad. It's good to see you. A little throwback. I mean, Jake was a long time ago basketball star, and
freshman year,
a speed camp attendee with me and Decaire back in the summer one summer. So
yes, I remember that too.
Well, how could you forget such memorable moments?
He said, get me off dry land and get me into a pool. Get me away from these guys.
Yeah. So good to see you, Jake. Just real quick, just introduce yourself. Let us know, let all the listeners know, like when you graduated, what you were involved in, what you're doing now. Just a real brief bio here, and then we'll talk about Lou a little bit.
Sure. So I graduated from Lockport in 2018. Started my freshman year playing basketball. Realized that I wasn't that good at it. Sophomore year, started swimming, but freshman year through senior year, I played water polo with Lou. He kind of just picked me out of the blue. He knew I could swim well and everything, so he thought it'd be a good idea if I tried out water polo, and that's kind of how I got into that. But
and what are you doing now?
So I'm going to the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm studying computer science, and it's my junior year now. So
Crazy.
Time is flying by.
Crazy. Go Badgers.
Yeah.
We're gonna, you know what? I need to contact Orlando Tucker and say, hey, you gotta look out for my guy Jake Sweis up there.
Oh yeah.
He's up there coaching. So
I've seen him on the field a couple times. He's come out to just like he's been like recognized on like the fields for some game days. So I've seen him there. I think I've met him once. He's a cool dude.
Yeah, he's a good guy. Anyway, so Jake is here because he got to know Lou and got to play for him. So it's a unique perspective. So that's what we want to talk about. So Decaire, I'll let you take it away here to get us started.
Yeah. So Jake, obviously, again, welcome on. Glad you're able to join us. You mentioned you got to play for Lou, water polo for 4 years. So I imagine you guys got pretty close. Why don't you talk to us just a little bit about what Coach Lou was like and kind of your experience there with water polo?
Yeah, so Lou is kind of like he's one of the most like kind-spirited people I've ever met. He just always seemed to let me rephrase. He didn't always seem to be happy, but he was always generally happy. Sometimes in practice, if something would go wrong, he would like yell a little bit as any coach would, but overall, he was probably one of the toughest coaches I've had just because of like the sheer amount of like practice we would do, whether it was like getting in the water at 5:30. If you were any later, he locked the doors on you, like weren't able to come in, and then he would like sit you the next game too. So you wanted to make sure that you were able to be accountable for yourself and just show up to practice, put in the work, and that make sure that all that hard work paid off. Like I said, I kind of started playing water polo just because Lou saw something in me that I didn't really see in myself. I was like, I don't really know anything about water polo. I didn't think I'd be that good at it. And I just remember he came up to me one day in gym class and he was like, why don't you try out for water polo? And I was like, you know what? Like, fine, I will. And I ended up sticking with it for the 4 years just because I love the sport so much. He had like a knack just seeing talent in people that they didn't see in themselves. And I saw that throughout the 4 years. He created like the players that ended up being like my senior year like class. And it was something awesome to see like him create such a team like that just from the ground up.
Yeah, we've talked to a couple people. And I actually had an experience with Lou myself. Like he came, I mentioned this earlier in the show, he came into my classroom to talk to me about basketball offense. And when I was a freshman basketball coach, and he had just come off a state trophy, and I was like, this guy, what's he talking to me for? But but we've also heard from some other people about Lou, like he was just so passionate about water polo and such a hard worker. Like he was not going to leave any advantage he could find unturned. Is that something that came across to you guys as players?
Yeah, he was definitely just the most passionate coach I have seen like for the sport of water polo. No one cared about water polo more than Lou did. Trust me on that. But Lou is definitely one of the hardest workers I've ever seen. He tried to portray that onto us a lot of the time whenever like one of us wasn't trying enough, he would always try to like push us to be better or just to work harder, because that's how you win games, is just by working hard. Talent can only get you so far, where he knew that hard work was really what paid off in the end. One of the things that Lou always did is he never really talked about it, but I know that Lou would get up at 4 o'clock in the morning every morning, drive all the way from like where his Chicago, like kind of where he lived, and then all the way to the high school every morning, 5:30, be there before everyone else, make sure everything was set up for us, and then go throughout his whole day. And then I think he said he would finish his days around like, I don't know, 9:30 p.m. and just repeat the cycle over and over again, just to make sure like his players were happy and that we were able to succeed at least in a practice every day. So yeah, he was definitely just one of the most passionate, hardworking people I've come across, at least.
Yeah, so you're actually your senior year, I started working a couple they had me work a couple water polo matches, and I had never watched it before. I mean, I remember playing it in PE sophomore year, during the swimming unit, but I didn't really know much at all, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's intense. Like just wait." And I just remember like, "Wow, this is really exciting. You guys had a good team. You had a lot of energy." And watching Coach Lou, on the not on the sideline, but outside the pool, very animated. As I'm sure you got plenty of stories. Is there like a favorite memory that sticks out from Coach, either from a game, a practice, or something that you'll never forget?
Yeah, I remember it was my senior year sectional semifinals. We were down, I think, 3 or 4 goals in the fourth quarter, and we ended up getting it down to just 1 goal. And I remember that I was given the ball, and I was kind of like, I was like expected to make this shot. Otherwise, we would have like lost the sectional semifinals. And I didn't really know what to do. And Lou always hated this one type of shot. It's a lob shot where you lob the ball over the goalie's head. And so it kind of just like sinks into the goal rather than like a hard shot. And he always hated them because they would never like work. He would like in his mind, they would never work. And that was my only option. And so I lobbed the ball into the goal. It was almost like slow motion. I can remember like watching the ball go in. And it went in, and all I remember is just looking at Lou going nuts on like the bench, just freaking out. Just like I've never seen someone so happy just to like move on to like the sectional finals. But it was something surreal just to like see him like that and see like all of my hard work pay off, but see him be happy that one of his players, like just like all of us as a team, we were able to succeed in something like that. And yeah, that's probably one of my favorite memories of Lou, other than the shipping up to Boston at 5:30 a.m. or He's a Pirate, or those were his 2 theme songs.
Oh man, Lou had some great music.
Oh yeah.
So have you kept in touch with some of those teammates? And if you have, did you like, what was kind of the response from the other guys when you heard the news? Like, you don't have to mention anybody by name, but just in general, like, what was the kind of the, obviously sad, but what was the mood, and what were some of the thoughts you shared with each other when you heard the news about Lou?
Yeah. I got the text from my mom, I remember, and all like, I didn't really, it was like, the words didn't really like register in my head. And then I started talking to some of the other guys about it. They had found out about it too from whatever. And it all just seemed so surreal that like someone so young and like so close to all of us just suddenly is gone. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was pretty tough initially. We all kind of confided in each other, and it was just weird to be seeing each other again for that reason, because we all actually like met up at home to go to his wake and his service and everything. And that's not why I wanted to see those guys, but that's what has to be done. But yeah, it was all the guys seemed to take it very differently, obviously, but it was a tough one for all of us. It was a really tough one. Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, so you kind of already alluded to some of this here. You mentioned work ethic and hard work and all that. Is there a lesson that you learned from Coach that'll always stick with you?
Yeah, the main thing I think that Lewis taught me is you can never settle. You can always work harder. And once you settle, that's when you stop progressing. You always need to like just keep working as hard as you possibly can just so that you can get better and then you can be satisfied with yourself. That's where like true like happiness comes in. And that would always just go back to like those games, the tough games, like the tough tournaments. Whenever it was always like a close game, it ended up just being like the work ethic that paid off in the end. That I think our senior year, we ended up having one of the best records in Lockport history for water polo. And it was just the fact that we all wanted to win. We all wanted to work hard. And that was just because of Lou. Honestly, Lou just had the energy about him that he wanted all of us to succeed. And he knew it wasn't about winning, but winning was always fun.
Yeah, for sure. Like I always tell people, you know, leadership is about making other people around you better. And what a great little tidbit there. You know, I can see it. You know, never settle is exactly what I would associate with Joe Lewandowski. So that's great. Thanks for sharing that. Jake, listen, we don't want to keep you too long. We just wanted to get some thoughts on, you know, from your perspective, a player's perspective, on a really tough moment, but more importantly, to celebrate a guy that we all loved and that reached and touched so many people. So thank you for dropping in and taking a few minutes to talk. I know that on behalf of all of us at Lockport, it means a lot. And, you know, our thoughts are with all you guys who knew Lou the best and who really, really got to experience him as a coach. So our thoughts are with you and all of your other teammates. So thanks again for just dropping on. It's been good to catch up with you a little bit, but even more importantly to share about Coach Lewandowski.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. I'm glad I got to share some of my experience, and it was really nice catching up with you guys too.
Yeah,
it's been a while.
Best of luck, and I'm sorry that Coach Hespell ruined your basketball career at a young age. I'm glad Coach Lou was able to scoop you up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's all right. The basketball career wasn't going to go that far anyway.
Jake, thanks again, man. It's good to talk to you, and best of luck with everything. Go Badgers, okay?
Yeah. Thank you, guys. You guys have a good night.
Good luck.
Well, it's great to hear from Jake Sweis. We got to know him a little bit. He did play basketball for a year, and then we got to know him at speed camp one summer. Good kid. Great to see him doing well. Also great to hear a player's perspective of what it was like to be influenced by Lewandowski.
Yeah, no, it was a great tribute about, you know, obviously a great man that touched so many different people's lives. So it was really nice to hear the perspective from Coach Sanderson, you know, the mentor, the friend, that coaching relationship, and then obviously the player coach, and then hearing Jake talk about all the guys in the team, and you know, obviously it's not a way you want to come together, but I'm sure they shared a lot of good memories, probably a lot of laughs. I don't know about some of those memories, but what an awesome story. You know, Jake talking about Lou seeing something in him and you know, pulling that out of him, something that he never had. You know, as a coach, if we can make that impact, that's what it's all about. Like, yeah, the wins are great, but you know, hearing stories like that just are a testament to how special Lou was to everyone here that knew him. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's great to hear from Sanderson's perspective because he got to know him a lot over the years and work with them. And then, you know, Jake's story about never settle. Like, if there's anything to me that personifies the Joe Lewandowski I knew, it was, we are not going to ever quit trying to get better. Like, we are just, I'm committed. He started the program, for crying out loud. Sanderson said, I mean, he volunteered basically for a couple years. Like, that is commitment, and that is dedication, and just not leaving any stone unturned to try and help those kids become better, and just to be your best all the time. There's always something more you can give. That is absolutely what I would take away from Joe Lewandowski. So you're right. It was great to hear those two guys talk. Well, we, you know, episode 13 here, we wanted it to be focused on on Lockport water polo, the program that was started by Joe Lewandowski, his pride and joy, his lasting legacy at Lockport. I mean, it's the Porter Pridecast because we try to highlight all those parts of LTHS that really make us proud. And I mean, from the bottom of my heart, you know, there's nobody that I would say I was more proud of at Lockport than Joe Lewandowski for the things he achieved. So we just wanted to make this episode a little bit about him and give a couple people a chance to share about him because we are going to miss him at Lockport.
That's right. We'll keep living the dream for you, Lou. Just like the back of your T-shirt.
We will get back on track with our regular programming next week, but that's what Lou would want us to do. You know, he would want everybody to just keep doing their thing because that's what he would preach. But Lou, from two guys that work with you at Central, we're gonna miss you, our friend, and you rest easy up there, brother.